$2 trillion? Yeah, that's a staggering number. But what if I told you that this massive pool of global capital is currently sitting almost entirely dormant, just locked away, illiquid, and structurally constrained? Well, that's the reality we're looking at today, and it literally represents one of the largest untapped asset classes in the entire world. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a proposed solution to this massive liquidity trap, the FIUSS RWA Protocol. It's a wildly ambitious project aimed at completely re-architecting Islamic financial infrastructure. We're talking about taking ancient, trust-based institutional frameworks and slamming them straight into cutting-edge Web3 technology. All right, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the $2 trillion sleeping giant, look at encoding trust into infrastructure, Waqf as a state machine, the Ummah Node network, executable fatwas and compliance, and finally the tokenization inflection point. Let's dive right in. Section 1. The $2 trillion sleeping giant. So the asset class in question here is called Waqf. Basically, a Waqf is an Islamic endowment, typically real estate or land, that's protected from ownership transfer in perpetuity. Its benefits are legally dedicated to charitable purposes for as long as the asset exists. Imagine a prime piece of downtown real estate, but its profits are forever bound to fund a local hospital. It's an institution that's over a millennium old. Historically, Waqf endowments financed major civilizational infrastructure across the Islamic world. Fun fact, the oldest continuous university in the world, the University of Al-Qarawiyyin in Morocco, was actually founded as a Waqf way back in 859 AD. But today, well, because of strict perpetuity rules and really rigid governance, this capital is effectively frozen. It suffers from a severe liquidity deficit. And the sheer scale of this issue is wild. Global Waqf assets are estimated to be worth somewhere between $1 and $3 trillion, with massive concentrations in places like Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Indonesia. But it's crazy that these figures are often just informal expert estimates, and that highlights a massive trust deficit. We're talking fragmented record-keeping and opaque administration. By resolving these specific deficits, FIUSS is targeting a total addressable market of roughly $2.2 trillion, just a massive pool of capital, totally trapped.
Which brings us to Section 2, encoding trust into infrastructure.
You see, the old world of Waqf management relies on legacy, trust-based institutions. Think manual reconciliations, centralized ledgers, fragmented jurisdictional oversight. It's incredibly slow. FIUSS introduces a deterministic system using distributed ledgers or blockchain. So trust is no longer a matter of waiting days for a bank clerk to manually stamp a paper dossier. It's cryptographically guaranteed in seconds. We are moving away from manual reconciliation straight to automated atomic settlement. And there's a crucial insight here from Ripple and Boston Consulting Group. FIUSS isn't just scanning 500-year-old paper deeds and turning them into PDFs. They're fundamentally transforming Waqf assets from static, non-transferable instruments into dynamic, programmable financial software. This is exactly what unlocks the liquidity while still perfectly preserving the perpetual charitable nature of the endowment. Section 3. Waqf as a state machine. Drawing on frameworks from the IMF, FIU actually formalizes the tokenization of a Waqf as a state transition system. So an illiquid physical asset, like that hypothetical apartment building funding a hospital, moves through a very precise sequence of cryptographically verified states. It's originated and legally structured into a compliant vehicle. Then it flows into tokenization, where it's fractionalized into digital tokens. From there, it transitions smoothly through distribution, governance, and finally liquidity, where it can be continuously traded on secondary markets. Through the DyCIST token lifecycle, and by the way, DyCIST stands for Dynamic Compliance Intelligent Security Tokens, a Waqf acts as a verifiable state machine. The absolute genius here is that a compliance hook validates every single state transition, meaning every time a token tries to move from, say, origination to liquidity, the smart contract automatically checks for KYC vouchers, jurisdiction rules, and Shariah compliance. If a transaction violates the endowment's rules, the network mathematically rejects it. No human intervention needed at all. It simply cannot execute. Okay, Section 4, the Ummah Node network. Now, the architecture here gets deeply strategic. Unlike public permissionless blockchains like Ethereum, FIUSS uses a federated, geographically distributed network. This Ummah Node validator topology spreads across countries within the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Operating on a Byzantine fault-tolerant consensus, the network stays online even if some individual nodes fail, all while seamlessly maintaining strict regulatory sovereignty. And the truly fascinating part is who actually operates these nodes. It's not anonymous crypto miners burning electricity in a basement. It's the national Waqf boards, Islamic banks, and licensed custodians themselves. FIUSS is taking the exact legacy institutions that currently administer these dormant assets and turning them into active consensus participants. They earn validation fees for securing the network, completely aligning their economic incentives with the modernization of the infrastructure itself. Section 5. Executable fatwas and compliance. So, how does FIUSS handle the compliance question? They answer it with a really unique dual-layer architecture, a bicameral governance model. On one side, an on-chain DAO handles protocol and treasury decisions, but that's paired directly with a Shariah supervisory chamber made up of certified scholars. Decentralized efficiency never outpaces religious accountability here. Both chambers absolutely must coordinate to govern the protocol. And here is the core innovation of that entire model: executable fatwas. Traditionally, Islamic financial compliance relied on manual reviews, fragmented documentation, post facto oversight. FIUSS translates scholarly rulings directly into machine-enforceable protocol logic. It is literally Sharia compliance as code. Prohibitions on interest, asset backing requirements, and ethical constraints aren't just written on a piece of paper sitting in a filing cabinet somewhere. They're embedded right into the smart contract's execution logic. It makes non-compliance mathematically impossible. Finally, Section 6, the tokenization inflection point. All of this is happening right now because we're at a structural inflection point in global finance. Projections from Boston Consulting Group and Ripple show the tokenized real-world asset market scaling toward $18.9 trillion by 2033. I mean, that's a massive 53% compound annual growth rate. Global finance is migrating to programmable ledgers, and FIUSS ensures Islamic capital markets have their own digitally sovereign, purpose-built infrastructure to actively participate in this shift. Ultimately, what we're looking at is a blueprint for a layered financial operating system. Just imagine a continuous digital ledger overlaying the physical cityscapes of the Islamic world. It unlocks prime real estate and agricultural land that's been frozen for decades, transforming them into liquid, globally accessible financial rails, while permanently preserving their charitable mission. For any of us watching modern finance evolve, this is an absolute masterclass in modernizing legacy systems. It proves for sure that you can encode complex, ancient societal values into next-generation financial technology. We're literally watching the convergence of distributed systems engineering and ancient jurisprudence. So, if trust can be mathematically verified rather than bureaucratically assumed, how will programmable finance reshape the world's oldest institutions? Will we successfully replace dormant capital with programmable compassion? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring how infrastructure shapes our future.